So Texas picked up a wide receiver transfer in, yes, Tarik Black. And we got to talk about it after the bumper.
Don't be cornering me. Hold up. Time. You got to help me with that corner
What's up, kinfolk? It's RJ Young. I am not on a step mill. Consider hitting the like and subscribe button because I upload a video every single day. It's always college football related, sports related. We have a good time. Today, let's talk about Tarik Black, who announced that he is transferring to Texas, coming from Michigan with not 1 but 2 years of eligibility left. And yeah, he's going to be immediately eligible. And he's going to help fill out a Texas wide receiving core that lost its top 2 pass catchers to the NFL draft, Colin Johnson and Devin Duvernay. Now, I think it's really interesting to see what comes of this move because we all know that Texas is going through an offensive change where Tom Herman is no longer going to be the play caller. He fired Tim Beck and he brought in Mike Yurcich. Mike Yurcich made his name at Oklahoma State where, among other things, he turned Wes Lunt and that offense, or no, that was Todd Monken, so he didn't. Among other things, Mason Rudolph to the NFL, as well as had guys on his roster like Marcel Aitman and so forth, so on, that could absolutely play. Now, goes to Ohio State. Quarterback's coach, want to be the play caller. Ryan Day's not going to let you be the play caller. Saw this opening at Texas, jumped at it. Now, I find this to be a real fascinating pickup because, Tarik Black is an enormous wide receiver, 6'3", 215 pounds, and fits into that Aitman category, or even like a Benjamin Victor, even if he doesn't have the hops of a Benjamin Victor. But coming out of Connecticut, he was the number 1 player in the state, which is as hard as it seems. That said, Aaron Hernandez came out of Connecticut, and he's pretty good. Goes to Michigan when many people thought he was going to go to Boston College and breaks his foot in his freshman year. Sits out, red shirts, breaks his foot the next year, sits out. And then Josh Gaddis comes in as a new offensive coordinator and didn't have a whole lot of things to say about how Black was going to figure in, except to say he's got to get over the mental hurdle of getting hurt. And yeah, he broke both of his feet. That's a hard thing to get over. But even last year, he was not a featured part of the offense, even as he caught 25 passes for about 323 yards, right? He had just 20 offensive snaps against Ohio State in that bloodbath last year. But when he did catch the ball, he caught it deep. 25% of his passes were for 20 yards or more. And this is on an offense that featured Ronnie Bell, Donovan Peoples-Jones, among others, along with, Nico Collins. I thought that Shea Patterson wasn't great, but he wasn't bad either. And there were certainly aspects of his game that I wanted to see improve. One of them was perhaps getting Black more involved, but that's more of an offensive coordinator decision. And it was the first year for Josh Gaddis, who's coming from Alabama and really wanted to take over what he thinks is going to be a pretty good Michigan Wolverines program as offensive coordinator, maybe jump that into some other job if he can turn them into the kind of team that everybody thinks Michigan ought to be, which is kind of what Texas is trying to be, which is get out from under being perhaps the second or third best team in a conference where so many people expect you to compete for not just the league championship, but a college football playoff spot and national championship. As for Texas, this bolsters them, as I mentioned, but also really accentuates these plays or these toys that Sam Ehlinger gets to play with. Because along with Tarik Black, you get, Brandon Eagles, Jake Smith. You also got Jordan Whittington. And Roshan Johnson is still there. Keontae Ingram is still there. And then you get Bijan Robinson coming in, who I absolutely love in this 2020 class. Sam Cosmi is going to be a first-round draft pick. He plays tackle, but he could play anywhere on your offensive line. Texas has always had talent, and they ought to be really good. It's about, can they put it all together? And can Yurcich make this offense work with Sam Ehlinger and with these, bevy of wide receivers without necessarily getting the same sort of spring practice in that you'd like to see? And it wasn't going to help with Black anyway because he went into the portal in December and he's just now coming out Texas in April, so he would have missed whatever spring practice was. That said, being able to get onto campus and basically get to know your teammates and go through some drills with your teammates and involuntary workouts to get yourself ready for preseason camp would be invaluable to him. I also think that they're going to try to throw him in right away in a league that has become really good at putting wide receivers into the NFL draft. and a place where we've seen some guys absolutely outkick their ranking. And that's going to say a lot if Tarik Black can do that, because Black was the 15th best receiver in the 2017 class and, well, a top 100 player, a blue chip player. We saw CeeDee Lamb get taken off the board. We saw Jalen Reagor get taken off the board. Denzel Mims get taken off the board. Tylan Wallace is going to be there next year, we think. And on it goes. I'm going to be interested to see how they incorporate Tarik Black into what they're doing, whether or not they run a bunch of 4 verticals like they had in the past, how they're going to try to stretch the field off of a power run game, which I think is still going to be a big part of what they do. It's just about how Mike Yurcich wants to deploy it, as opposed to, Tom Herman getting in the third and short situations and wanting to run QB power to the right every time to make Sam Ehlinger into something of a battering ram. This also brings into question the idea of grad transfers and how this can work against you if you had a guy that was highly recruited who just didn't have things go his way from the injury front, because this is what it is. I mean, you graduate from Michigan, then you go to Texas for grad school, and probably ends up graduating with his master's in something from Texas, just because he'll be there for at least one more year, but could be there for 2 years. And I wouldn't put it past him to be there for 2 more years, especially if he doesn't get the kind of publicity that he expects to get for being good. Now, I think he could be a better wide receiver than Colin Johnson. I don't know that he's going to be better than Devin Duvernay, though, because Devin Duvernay caught a bunch of passes. I want to say over 100 passes last year from Sam Ehlinger, and it was stupid fast. Now, Duvernay does not have Black size, but being able to put somebody else on the other side of him rather than Malcolm Epps of Brennan Eagles can only help you. But how often are we going to see more of this, right? How often are we going to see blue chip recruits that perhaps get redshirted or have an injury, and then their year that they are able to play doesn't go so well? They're already graduating. They're ready to go somewhere else, especially if the NFL draft is not very high on them or gives them a stay in school grade. I kind of like this. I think this is the way that the grad transfer rule was actually supposed to work. Because if you don't feel like it's working in Ann Arbor and you can leave with a degree from Michigan, yeah, absolutely. Go to a place like Texas where you're going to play, where they have a bunch of other guys that you want to play with, and you're going to at least have a shot at playing in a conference championship game, unlike Michigan, who comes out of Ohio State's division, and Ohio State kind of runs that conference. At the very least, you would be able to get beat up on by Oklahoma in the Big 12 championship game and maybe end up playing in a big-time bowl game, perhaps. I don't know. We'll see. But I'm interested to see what happens with this Tarik Black thing, because I think that Sam Ehlinger is going to benefit from this if nobody else does. All right, that is it for me. Doses.